is yet another time that we get to connect with you on the Diary of a Speaker. And at this podcast, we welcome speakers to share with us stories, ideas, insights to do with public speaking, the art, and also the business of public speaking. And always, we have great guests who come and join us. Today, we have a great guest, and we're going to talk about getting the attention of event planners by a great guy known as Cam. And he's going to come and introduce himself shortly. But before we welcome Cam, can you please share this episode with all your friends? If you have questions, ask. If you have comments on anything to do with this podcast, we appreciate feedback. Thank you in advance for that. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, or in any other platform, you can always follow us or do whatever it says there, just to stay connected with us as we keep sharing this journey. And now, without taking one more minute, I'm gonna welcome to the show. Come, hey, great guy, come. How are you?
Anthony, I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It's good to have you here with us today. Uh, as you can tell, I was afraid to introduce you with your second name. Introduce
If you can say Baldwin, you can say Beaudoin, and it's the same kind of thing.
Baldwin.
Yeah, you
Okay,
got
so
it. You got it.
it's the first time I'm seeing that name
Yeah.
anyway.
You know what I really like about your intro is that you're talking about like the business of speaking,
Yeah,
not just, the art. It's not just about standing up on stage and giving a nice speech, right?
yeah.
Speaking is a business. The only difference is instead of selling like mugs or a cell phone or cell phone cases or something like that, that the product is you, right? Like that's what it
Mhm,
is. It's
mhm.
getting up on stage and or getting in front of people and
Yeah,
selling
because
yourself.
mainly when we talk about public speaking, what comes in mind to many people who may not be in the business is that, oh, I stand up and speak and that's all, and
Mhm.
it stops there. So now we bring in the concept, oh, hey, this is a business. It's not just any other thing that you do. And I know you're well positioned to talk about that. But before we go deeper into what it is that you do and how you can help the speakers that are tuned, can you maybe tell us where are you based right now? And yeah, where are
Yeah.
you based?
So I'm up in Toronto, Canada.
That's where you were born?
Born in Ottawa, just like a little bit away from here, but I did a lot of traveling in my 20s. So where I'm from is kind of a little bit vague, but if I had to pin it somewhere, it's definitely Ottawa, the capital of Canada.
Oh, that's beautiful. And yeah, how was it when you were growing up in your area? How what did you things you experienced that you can be willing to share with us? Just a few.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tended to be really a big nerd. So I was really into books. I was really into computers. I used to build computers on the side, and actually, that'll lead into my further journey around becoming a speaker later on. But uh, I was always, really interested in technology. That was always really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in most of my youth, my dad would be kicking me outside, like, get outside and go play outside. I remember once, he opened the door, threw my snowsuit outside, and pushed me outside and said, "Get out there! Like you have to get out there and go and exercise, do something outside that's not just sitting in front of your computer." But that was me. Lots of books, lots of reading. But yeah, and I guess I grew up in a very small suburb of Ottawa called Manotick, which you got to open up a map to find that one.
Okay, and what did you pursue in college, if I may ask? If you
Yeah,
did.
computer networking and technical support.
Wow,
Very
that's
like nerd. Yeah, exactly. I did I really loved doing programming, but it was first off building computers, which I thought was really neat. But then as soon as I took one or two courses on programming on software development, I really enjoyed that a lot because that was like I could just sit down and get computers to do things for me, and that was really really cool. So software development was where it was at.
that's beautiful, and it's something that is necessary and important in today's world. So that's a good area. So, how did you come into contact with the public speaking and everything that you do in public speaking?
Well, when I became a software developer, I got a job at IBM. Okay, so I was very fortunate, got a job at IBM, and they asked me to do something very, very specific, which was you are going to be in charge of this entire project's digital accessibility. And for anyone who doesn't know, digital accessibility is all about making sure that technology is usable by people with disabilities. Okay, we'll just keep it very broad like that. And as the deeper I got into that world, the more interested and the more interesting it became, right? I became really flooded with information on how am I helping people with disabilities who don't have the same abilities as everybody else, people who are blind or deaf or using wheelchairs. How do they use technology? And I became an advocate for people with disabilities. I would go out and speak on this topic much more from the technical side. So I would teach all the different teams at IBM. I would be invited to go speak at other tech companies or tech conferences or go speak at big accessibility events. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my foray into the world of public speaking. So during the pandemic, I decided I want to make I want to do more of this. And I went to go take courses on public speaking and professional speaking. How do I get paid to become a public speaker? And that's kind of how it all began. So I did that for almost 7 years. I spoke on disability inclusion and accessibility.
That's beautiful. And now mentioning about the workplace and how you come into that challenge of being asked, hey, you're the guy that is going to stand and speak to the rest. You are the guy that is going to talk about our company to in events that we go to. I come to imagine of people who may not have been
Well, it doesn't happen very
being
often.
a doctor, being anything else, and it's something that we are on constant discussion about how important it is in whichever area, whichever field that you find yourself in. How do
Now,
you see
sorry,
that?
you kind of froze there for a second. So could you ask the question again?
Oh, okay. We're talking about the importance of public speaking in every area of life, in
Right.
whichever direction that someone chooses to go.
Well, I think it's funny. There's never been a big change anywhere where there hasn't been somebody who had to give a speech at some point. Like
Mhm,
you could let's go very small here. Maybe it's your grandmother's 70th birthday, right?
mhm,
There's going to be someone who has to stand up and do a toast.
mhm,
Maybe it's your friend's wedding. Well, if you're the best man or best, you're going to have to get up and give a toast, give a speech. If it's your company all hands meeting, well, guess what you're going to have to do? You're probably going to have to prepare something and go talk in front of a bunch of people. And I
mhm,
think that it's very human to go give public speeches, right? Like it's something that we will all have to do at some point. Now, take that to the next level. Yes, of course, if you have a large organization, you're going to go give board meetings or maybe training or coaching to somebody, or of course, speaking in front of a large audience or a large crowd. At some point, we're all going to have to do that. And I think that's all good change comes from a good speech. All
mhm,
good events are usually started with a good speech. And so I think it's if you want to enact change inside the world, to become a world changer, a world mover, then you're going to have to learn some of these skills, which is getting up in front of people, communicating a message clearly, and we'll get into the clearly part, and really learning how to influence people and like what in that one to many type of scenario.
mhm. Can you maybe tell us about two instances, and this is two extremes, and I'll give you the choice to choose which you start with. In your speaking career, which was your best moment, or which was your worst moment up to now, up to the point that you can remember? Okay.
Well, one of the best moments was being invited to one of the bigger accessibility conferences, which right here in Toronto, it's called AliTO, and that was really fun because at that point I had a podcast of my own, and I was known very locally as a leader in the world of digital accessibility. And so to be invited to go speak at that event was really, really neat. And it was during the pandemic. So yes, it was a virtual event, but I was most prepared for that. And that was the time where I was at the peak of everything. I'd just finished up my two speaking training courses. I just finished taking a public speaking or presentation style um, course or coaching program, which really taught me how to structure my talk well and how to focus in on one thing that I want people to understand as part of the messaging. And I still use some of that content to this day. At, in knowing that it was really well delivered. So that I think was probably one the peak of what I did. And that was right in the middle of the pandemic. Um, that was a good one. One of the lowest times, though, unfortunately, is when I had to turn down a big event, and I think this has happened, quite a few times to speakers. Unfortunately, even though it's an event that I really, really wanted to speak at, it was an international conference, and my abstract was accepted. I was going to be paid for the event, and unfortunately, just things didn't work out. Things did not work out. My schedule wasn't working, and I had to turn them down. And this, when you think of these events in your speaking career that would have really broadened your network or brought in new clients or things like that. That was going to be the event to do that. And it just could not work out no matter what. So I had to turn that one down.
Hmm. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And presently, how much speaking are you doing, if I may ask?
Zero. I have completely
Zero.
exited the speaking industry. I no longer am a speaker myself, but instead now I serve speakers and help other speakers craft video demo reels so that they can then go and get bigger speaking engagements and get paid gigs.
Oh, so this is where we are talking about getting the attention of event planners. Now, I'm going to give you uh, your time to just tell us how to go about this to get that attention because and I don't know, in your experience when you were active in speaking, did you usually go after the gigs or did people just pass your name around, which was the main thing? And yeah, drive us through that, what your experience was and how you're helping the speakers move around today.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the pain points that a lot of professional speakers have, right? And I think it all boils down to one thing: speakers want attention. Okay. They want attention being on stage. They want attention from event planners. They want to be recognized as an authority figure in their domain of expertise, right? Maybe we can just clear that out and say, at the core, yes, people say, I want to change the world. I want to go do this. But really, they want to be recognized. I think, first and foremost, they want to be recognized. And so if you think of that, all businesses have that same problem, right? If you're starting up a coffee shop, your main problem is going to be, I need to be recognized, I need to be noticed, I need to be made known out there in the
Mm-hmm,
world. And so my journey was always, I have a sales background as well. In my 20s, I did a lot of sales. And so sales and marketing has always been this fascination and interest of mine. And getting out there and broadcasting myself while I was a speaker was, to me, very natural. I could go out and just send out emails. I could send 10, 20, 30 abstracts per day. I would go and do research. I hired a virtual assistant to go and find different speaking engagements for me, and I would apply at all of them. I would teach them how to go and apply at these different gigs because that's what you need to do. I think that anyone who is just sitting back and waiting passively for gigs to come to them, if they're not that level, right? If you're at the 30, 40, $50,000 speaking engagement level, well, that may be a different story. Maybe people know who you are if you can charge that much. But when you're at the very beginning of your journey, when you're just starting out in any business, you need to get out there and make yourself known. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of speakers glaze over. We were speaking a
mm-hmm,
little bit earlier about getting attention, right? And that speaking is a business. And this is the same pattern that all businesses go through. So you need to go out and make yourself known. And that was something to me very inherently. So I think that you can command a greater price if you go and make yourself known first. If you go and introduce yourself and network properly to event planners and event coordinators, if you present yourself well, like you're well put together, you have a single message, if you have a clear story, if you have a video demo reel or other brand assets that you can go and show yourself to. Because if you think about it from the event planner point of view, they're looking to fill paid keynote slots, right? That's what their job is. They're looking for the best speakers.
mm-hmm,
And they're not going to risk putting a speaker in a paid keynote slot that won't solve a problem for an audience. Because I think a lot of speakers think that just because they have a good story, just because they can get up and speak or like move the crowd, that earns them money. And the truth
mm-hmm,
is, it's not.
mm-hmm,
People want to have solutions to their problems. And so I think that's where I started to fit in. The deeper I got into the world of business and marketing and sales and understanding the speaking world, I really started to think of, well, the big problem that speakers have is they are having difficulty getting the attention of event planners. And I think
mm-hmm.
I can go and solve that.
Mm. Wow. So now getting the attention of event planners and how is it now working with you, if I may ask, how is it working with you if someone now watching us and has an interest of just getting that attention?
Well, it all kind of starts with the story. And you
Mm-hmm,
have to remember, when you're up on stage, you're not the hero. The audience is the hero. And I
mm-hmm,
think that's one thing that a lot of speakers miss. We get up on stage and we say, this is what I've done, and look at what I can do, and look at these datas and facts and figures. But I think everyone sat through one or two talks in their life when they listen to data and facts and figures and they look at a wall of text up on screen and they just say, I could go and download a PDF about this, or I could go watch a YouTube video, and this isn't relevant to me, right? You stop paying attention. But instead, if you were to position yourself as a guide, as the mentor, as the person who is leading the audience through an experience or a journey, then you're going to have they're going to have a much better retention to what you want to give them. And I think
mm-hmm,
it's exactly the same way in all of your sales process and all of the demonstrations and all the conversations that you have with people who want to hire you for paid speaking gigs. If you go to an event planner and say, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I have all the answers, I've got this, they're going to say, great, you haven't spoken about the problem that you're helping my audience solve. Thank you very much. We're going to go with somebody else. So I think part of what I do is helping, first off, clarify that message with people,
mm-hmm,
because that's a big part. I won't help anybody with their speech, but everything up to that point where they go and have a conversation with an event planner, that's my job.
mm,
So creating this video that's 2 to 3 minutes long that clearly defines things like the problem that you help solve, the way, the transformation that you're going to bring audiences through, or creating some intrigue in your message, in your story, opening loops so that people say, man, who is this speaker? I got to go and talk to them. At least I think they can help my audience solve a problem. I think that's
mm-hmm.
the main focus. And that's the main thing that I can help people solve.
So what's going to be included in the video?
So let's break it down. So a video demo reel will pre-sell you to event planners so that they want to book you on a call. A video will not sell you the gig. No one's going to say, I watched your video, here's $30,000. That is just not the reality of it. But what's going to happen is that event planners, so first off, let's take a step back. Public speaking is one of the lowest barriers to entry industries out there, right?
Mm, mm,
What do you need to become a speaker? You need a voice, and maybe you need a word, like a Word document so that you can write out what the speech is. Really, you don't need much more than that. You need no
wow.
equipment. You don't even need a good microphone. If you go out and present yourself well, that is pretty much all you need. Now, that means that there's a lot of competition out there, right? You and I
Mm-hmm,
both know in the world of speaking, everybody calls himself a speaker. They spoke one time at their church and they think that now they can go and become a pastor, which is, we
yeah.
know that that's not the reality of the world. So getting out there and understanding the concept of what's involved, that's what it's all about. So a video demo reel follows the hero's journey pattern. And if anyone who doesn't know what the hero's journey is, right, you need to present there has to be a character, there has to be a problem, there has to be a person involved in what's going on. You have to present a problem, right? This is the call to action. This is why people are even interested in what your message is. And then you present yourself as the guide. I am here as the expert on, I don't know, waste management. Maybe you are an expert and you are a speaker on waste management. I'm the expert on waste management and you need my help. You have a problem that I can help you solve. Let me talk to you about the transformation I can bring you through. So by bringing in those basic story elements into a video that's only 2 to 3 minutes long, it creates intrigue, but it also answers the question, what do you do? Because if you
Mm-hmm,
don't answer that question, then people can't make a decision on you, and your application will be passed for others who have a very clear problem that they help solve.
hmm. And as you make the clips, the reels, because I'm imagining of someone who's just being introduced to into public speaking, the business, and we are talking of a reel, and that person may not have an idea. Am I just going to put in my credentials there? Am I going to put my pictures, or what is it going to find itself in that video? What goes into that video as you're making it?
I'm super excited about this question. I actually love this one because I had a client who came to me and she said, Cam, I would love you to make a demo reel for me, but I only have 3 webinars that I've ever hosted. I haven't been on any podcasts. I've only done a couple of these webinars. Now, she is a brand manager. She goes and coaches CEOs on how to create their personal brand so that they can, create more influence inside their organization or get projects done. So this is what she does. And she helps them get a better job and stuff like this. So she's actually very accomplished, but this is her first foray into the world of public speaking, or at least into the world of video creation based on her public speaking. Now, when that happened, I had to look at the market and see what else was out there. Because again, in those webinars, in the presentations that she's done, she was talking about her transformation. She was talking about her solution, but the problem that she helped solve really wasn't clearly defined. So now I book an interview with that person. So what I do, and this is a big career defining moment for me. So when I started to book speaking events, when I started to book speaker interviews, that changed everything. So I go through the process of finding a videographer and hiring somebody to and finding the location where we would go shoot. I just got back from Tampa, Florida, where we recorded in an old theater. It was so cool. You can imagine exposed brick wall. It really made a really nice visual aspect for that speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to give and deliver a message to me that really clearly defined what's the problem in their market. What's the solution that they bring forward? What's the transformation that they bring audiences through? What pain points are people experiencing? How are they different from everybody else? Why should people hire them? These are questions that need to be answered or that are going to be in the back of the mind of event planners. So I go and conduct a whole interview. We consume all the content that a speaker might have. And we'll go and watch all that content. We'll cut it up. We'll find the best hooks. We'll do all that work for you, because I think speakers, what they really want to do, they want to focus on what they do best, getting up on stage and just giving a great talk, right? They don't have to worry about, I need to go find an editor. I need to go hire a space. I need to go watch no, I've never met a speaker who says, I can't wait to watch all my content. Like no one has ever said, I can't wait to watch all talks that I gave. No one has said that. We'll do it. My team does that. That's what they're paid to do. So we'll go and do all that stuff. We'll consume it. We create a storyboard, and we do this recording for you. And the output of that are some really, really great brand assets. So you've got that video demo reel. We create teaser reels and meet the speaker reels. We create a podcast reel. So all these video assets come out of working and going through this experience.
And now, since you mentioned that you've been at a shooting location with a client, I'm imagining that I can tell that you don't just work with people locally. How is it with those people who reach you and they are not in Canada or anywhere near that you can fly to, or they can fly to you?
Yeah, that's great. So I do all the interviews through Zoom. Okay, so there's a physical person there, a videographer that I hire that works with you, the speaker. But then I'm doing the interview through Zoom. Now, if there's a couple of speakers, I will actually fly down and we'll create a mini event and we'll do something a little bit extra for that, because that's super fun. So I do both. I mean, if there's only a solo speaker, then we'll do everything through Zoom. I'll just ask you questions. You speak directly to the camera. You look awesome. And it's really, really great. In fact, just yesterday, I had one, and the speaker, she speaks on belonging. And she's a fantastic speaker. She had amazing sound bites, and all she needed to bring was a laptop. That's all she needed to bring. And she looked amazing. I got the videographer to set up the room to be really great. And he set up 2 cameras. It just looked fantastic. And like I said, all she needed to do is just bring her laptop and have me up on the side. So I was able to interview her and get some really, really great footage for that demo reel.
That's wonderful. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that. And if we have people who would want to get into contact with you, how can they do that? Because I know there are people who could be watching and saying, hey, I would like to get more from Cam. How do they do that?
Yeah. Best way to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Cam Beaudoin. You can go to thefrequentspeaker.com as well. Good place to find me, or even on Instagram, The Frequent Speaker as well. I kind of do The Frequent Speaker on all the socials. So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you can find me a Frequent Speaker. Go take a look at some of the other demo reels that we've created, me and my team. And yeah, there's some really great stuff coming out. We're really fortunate to be working with some of the world's best speakers on, like I said, on belonging, money management, disability inclusion. Who else have we worked with? I've worked with 9-figure entrepreneurs who help other entrepreneurs now have a growth mindset and how to grow their business. It's just what a fortunate position to be in, to be able to tell speaker stories like this. It is so much fun.
Wow. Wow. So, to whoever is listening there, go connect with Cam on thefrequentspeaker.com or the frequent speaker on any of the platforms, social platforms, and get to know more of how you can have your demo reel, a demo reel made for you. Um, and I get to I have been on stages here and there. I've also presented online. And after getting the attention of the event planners, to someone who's starting out, how uh, how do we go? Because we are talking about people getting. You're speaking about figures,
Mm-hmm.
figures, five figure, 50,000. How do you come to a certain price, a certain fee?
Oh, you know what? So I heard this great expression once, okay? And it's that if you're not afraid of giving your price, then you're not asking for enough.
Hmm.
Okay. And so I think
Good
a lot of
one.
speakers were just nervous about it because if I say $500 for my speaking engagement, that's safe. And everyone's going to say yes to 500 bucks. Like
Yeah.
for a big organization, $500 is nothing. But if you start to say 5,000, oh, all of a sudden that makes you nervous, right? The first time you ask for $5,000, you're nervous. But I promise you, the second time, the third time, fourth, fifth, you're going to stop being nervous about a $5,000 price tag. Then you're going to be curious about more. So I think that we have to remember a few things. So one of my favorite speakers out there, her name is Ashley Kirkwood. She is just phenomenal. She's a speaker coach as well. Anyone in the Ashley Kirkwood community, just you're amazing. Speaker Rate of Cash. It's awesome. Um, but for her, she has a great a saying, which is your rate is not your worth. So no matter what you feel, like no matter what you feel, if you say I'm a junior speaker and I'm just beginning my journey, I don't know how much I should ask for. You need to learn to separate those two things. You need to learn to separate that your rate, just like if I'm selling this pen, this pen costs $1 to make. I'm not going to charge people $1. I'm going to charge people $15 because I need to make that $14 to pay for my advertising, pay for my time, pay for my travel, pay for just my worth. My worth. That's what it's all about, like getting up there. So you need to decouple those two different things. Your rate is not your worth. And I think that everyone should just be more comfortable asking for what they feel that it took to make that talk. Think of all the hours that it took you to make that, and start to move up into that 5 figures as fast as possible. And your market will tell you if you're charging too much. You let the market decide. Don't you decide. Let the market decide. So if you talk to 10 event planners and they're saying, no, I don't think I want to go with you, then you need to learn how to show more value in the way you present yourself. You need to learn how to demonstrate that you can increase your rate to that much, because everything is a value conversation. So the only thing is that you're not able to communicate the value of your talk to the problems that event planner has well enough. That's it.
That's cool. Well answered. And maybe you can give us a personal experience. Which could have been your highest rate when you are very active in speaking?
Oh yeah, so the highest rate I ever charged for speaking was just under 10,000. I just missed it. It was 9,500, and I was really proud to get that. But what's funny is that I used to get in this habit of adding. Right, like I said, like I'll give you a talk, and I'll give you some webinars, and I'll give you a virtual conference, and I started to add. But then I learned that, man, that was really it was a lot of extra. So instead, what I did is I took everything that I created and I just made one super focused talk on solving, like I said, one big problem that I knew clients would have. And what it was, what is the business of accessibility? What is the business of disability inclusion? Like, how do you go and solve that from a business point of view? And when you start to talk about the problems, like, this is an expression too. Go and solve rich people problems. So who are the rich people inside organizations? It's the VPs, it's the CEO, it's the directors and all the decision makers. Go and solve problems that they have. Don't go solve problems that the developers, that the customer service agents have. You're never going to be able to command a high price if you just solve the doer problems. So
Mm,
I just started to change my language inside the talk on how do I go and solve the business owner problems for this very complex, very nebulous problem that they have. And so when I started to solve their problems, I could ask for more money. And it was started to get really easy just to go and say it's 9,500 to go give my talk, and I will go and solve these specific problems. And here's how you're going to do it. And here's the framework you're going to get. You're going to get all these out of it, all these solutions out of it too. And I went and gave talks to managers and directors inside organization. It was great.
What I get here is a matter of focus, focus, focus.
Isn't
So
that always the problem, right?
yeah, yeah. Focus. There are so many problems that I can solve, but then choose that one problem that you can solve. There are so many avenues. There's so wide area of audience that I can have. Choose that particular audience that is going to give you the greatest value.
Right.
Once you solve the biggest problem that they have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can I
Yeah,
give you maybe a tip? Can I give the audience maybe a tip on if you have a
yeah.
hard
Go
time
ahead. Go ahead.
with that? So I want you to think of a Venn diagram. Everyone knows a Venn diagram is when two circles cross, what's in the middle. So I had a client who had two very, very different talks. So number one, he would speak on disaster management, right? Like what happens if your data infrastructure in your organization fails, or what happens if a fire breaks out at like a large organization, and it's in like he would talk about like big disaster preparedness and stuff like that. Okay, that's talk number one.
Mm-hmm,
Talk number two, he would talk about LGBTQ issues inside large organizations.
mm-hmm,
Well, those are two very different issues. And he loved speaking about both of them. So we started to brainstorm a little bit. We said, where's the crossover? Where's the alignment between those? And really what we were talking about is change, right?
mm-hmm.
Because if you need to enact change inside an organization to make them more accepting of people of LGBTQ or different gender identities or anything like that, right? That is a personal change. That's a change inside an organization. Also, if you want to get somebody to prepare for disaster, you got to get people to change their behaviors. And so he came up with the concept change leadership. And that was the very center of that. So now everything he talks about is change leadership, because what is change, and how do you find the right people? So start to paint that picture of, you may talk on three very different subjects, you don't know how to bring them together. Start painting that Venn diagram. Where do all these things align? And then just speak to one. It doesn't mean you can't sell other talks. It doesn't matter at all. Once you're on the call with an event planner, then you can talk about the different things that you speak on. Get focused on one thing, and that's way easier to sell.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Focus on one thing and go for it. So, any problem, any challenges that the people may have, and there you are. That's your niche. Follow
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
Speakers want to
Come.
be known as an authority, right? That's what
Yeah.
everyone wants to be known as. And you can't be an authority on, I'll use myself as an example. I couldn't be the authority on technical disability inclusion, software developer accessibility techniques, and business of accessibility. Like I couldn't do that. Like it's impossible to be the master on all three. So you had to be known for one thing. So pick one. It doesn't mean that's all you have to sell. Just pick one to talk about, mainly.
Pick one. Pick one. Yeah, wow. Thank you very much, Cam. And thank you to every viewer out there, whether you're watching this live or whether you're going to watch the recorded version. We appreciate your time. And I believe and hope that you've got some insights and ideas on how to get that attention of an event planner, so that if you're going to send emails, if you're going to call them, if you're going to meet them in a networking event, they won't go away from you without giving you an opportunity to be on their stage. Just go ahead and do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, give us a parting shot, what we call a parting shot, Cam. Just before we go, what should we always have in mind?
Take risks.
Take risks.
Take risks. Take risks. Small risks, big risks. Life is risk, right? You're never going to avoid it. And whether it's asking for more money and you don't get it, right? That's going to happen. You're going to ask for a budget. It's not going to work. Well, then how do you change that? That you took a risk and it didn't work. That's fine. Doesn't matter. It's not going to be the only talk that you ever give. It's not going to be the only opportunity you ever get. So go and take risks, and try and ask for more. Try and be creative, and just get out there. Keep trying.
Yeah, take risks. Keep trying. Go out there. Don't just be there at home, just relaxing, watching TV, see other people being on stage on YouTube, and you're not doing nothing. Just take that risk. Get noticed, get on stages. Thank you very much, Cam. This is just about it for today. We really appreciate you coming, and thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, and to everybody out there who could be have been watching or who is watching right now, we thank you. And yeah, just go do it. That's it from the Diary of a